Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be giving a little bit of a box office update with The Bad Guys, the animated film from Dreamwork, dominating the weekend to no one's surprise, as all of the major studios have basically skipped this weekend with only one new release coming out, and that is the new Liam Neeson action hero star film, Memory, which it looks like no one will remember because no one is actually going to see it. So we'll talk about this, and we'll also talk about some of the movies set to come out in the next couple of years have shifted a little bit, and what some of the reasons for that might be and what it might indicate about specifically future MCU film releases, and also to give some updates on some of the other films that we have been following, with a full box office breakdown, of course, coming tomorrow when we get those week 2 numbers to crunch through. Anyway, before getting any further, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So also, as a reminder for anyone who is a Patreon Subscribe Star member, there are going to be some changes to some of the tiers going forward starting next month, which starts tomorrow. So if you are wanting to get in on any of the any of the perks that come along with being an Army of Asgard or Keep of the Bifrost or Chosen of Valhalla member, check out those. I've updated the tiers to reflect what you get in those tiers. And also there is a post on there as well that helps to explain how there's going to be a grandfathering process in, at least for the Army of Asgard, for the giveaways portion. And I will hopefully be able to finish one of those giveaways today for the month of April. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about some box office numbers here. So first off, The Bad Guys is leading a quiet box office weekend, as is being reported here by Deadline. As it says before, Doctor Strange 2 dominates the world, and based on the early tracking for that film, it is expected to make domestically somewhere between $150 to $200 million, meaning that worldwide we could see Doctor Strange 2 make somewhere between $400 and $500 million in just its opening weekend. And if it does hold to those numbers, and those numbers remain consistent, and it doesn't see any massive drop-offs, we could then obviously see that film be able to reach $1 billion, and would be the second billion-dollar film that we've had in the last few years. The first, of course, being Spider-Man No Way Home. I do not think that Doctor Strange 2 is going to get anywhere near to the almost $1.9 billion that was received by No Way Home, but I think that it's still going to be impressive nonetheless for a Disney Marvel film to actually be back on top again, let alone Doctor Strange 2 of all films. I don't think that many people, when they look to the history of the MCU and the history of the box office with the MCU, look at that film as being that kind of a player at the box office. But obviously there are plenty of other factors that I think are feeding into that. I think the marketing campaign, despite my thoughts about the film and the direction the MCU is going and my thoughts about Disney in general, I think that the marketing campaign for the film has been pretty good. It's been pretty strong. They're obviously putting a lot of confidence behind it, a lot of money behind promoting it. There's also, of course, the direct ties to Spider-Man No Way Home, which many people are and have been very big fans of, have been buying up on physical media as well. So I think all of these things are kind of feeding into this being the big box office hit that it is expected to be. And also, of course, it's the first film really of the summer box office season. Even though most people are still going to be in school, it's always amazing when people talk about films that come out in the month of May as being that summer box office, because obviously there are some people who are starting to get to the end of their high school or college semesters, and at the very least they have films get released during that month that then move into and stay in theaters to the month of June, which of course is prime season for the summer box office. But let's go ahead and look and see what they have to say here. It says, after all the hallelujahs about the return of theatrical at CinemaCon this past week, the major studios skipped out on programming any new wide releases this weekend. All of this is resulting in a marketplace which is seeing an estimated $64 million in total ticket sales, down 33% from last weekend. So a pretty massive drop. Now, we're going to see a massive increase, of course, next weekend with Doctor Strange 2, and pretty much all the subsequent weekends after that, we expect to have some type of major release, especially when we get into the months of June and July. which means a lot of competition, which means that is good news, of course, for movie theaters. And as you all know, screw the movie studios in general. And I am, again, much more on the side of any of the movie theaters, as they were the ones that got screwed over the most during the entire pandemic. When movie studios were still holding on to their billions of dollars, when movie studios were being able to, use the ties that they had to the federal government to get themselves subsidies and tax breaks and tax credits, etc. The businesses that run, and the theaters rather, and the people that run the theaters had to go through other means. Now, we can obviously look at AMC and Regal as massive corporations and see that they likely got some help as well. AMC, more than anyone else, because of the AMC stonks situation, was able to easily cash out, pay off some debts, and actually be able to get out of the control and underneath, or rather to leave the umbrella that was its connection to a Chinese owned company. But with all that being said, I think that when you look at the individual theaters being run by individual general managers and managers, etc., I do think that the regular everyday worker got hit very, very hard by that. The individual theaters got hit very, very hard by that. And so I'm going to be happy when theaters are doing well, especially the mom and pop ones, the independent ones, maybe even, to go far as to say the regional chains, right, where they're a chain, but they're regionally run, so therefore don't have necessarily a stake in the stock market or international politics or anything to that extent. But again, it's good to see that the theaters are looking to probably get a little bit more life in them over the next couple weeks, and Doctor Strange is going to be a big part of that, despite, again, my own concerns about the film, my own doubts about the film. And again, we'll see exactly if Sam Raimi either is going to be able to have full control over it and give us a caliber of Spider-Man 1 or 2, or if the studio is going to have a heavy hand in it, meaning we're going to get more of a Spider-Man 3. That, of course, is the ultimate question that we don't quite have the answer to yet. As it says here, tracking is seeing this film, Doctor Strange 2, to have a minimum of $150 million, but it would not be a shock if it got to $200 million. Of course, Disney is not trying to push the bar as far as their own projections are concerned, and my guess is that when they come out with their projections, they'll say somewhere around 150, so that way when it does better than that, it will be able to say, look at how amazing it's doing, and the MCU is alive and well, trying to make people forget about their films last year, which, of course, even when those films last year came out, they were still trying to spin those as victories by saying, hey, they were the highest grossing films of the year. And it's like, yeah, let's just forget about how much money you put into those projects and how below expectations those came in, and how other films with either comparable budgets or at the very least with sizable budgets were be able to at least make their money back and bring people out to go see them. And again, let's just forget about that. Forget about the man behind the curtain, as it were. It goes on to say that Doctor Strange 2 is seeing the best pre-sales of this year, higher than that of even The Batman. But I've mentioned this before, and I'll have to say it again very clearly. Pre-sales don't mean much of anything. Pre-sales are a certain indicator that tells you certain information, but it does not tell you everything. Right, $42 million of pre-sales for a weekend that might give you to 150 to 200 million actually, I think, kind of proves the point that I've been making for a very long time, which is that most people don't pre-buy their tickets. The vast majority of the movie-going populace still buy their ticket on the actual day, even in the age where most theaters and most theater chains have reserved seating, and there's some benefits to that especially. You can see just from those numbers alone that the vast majority of people going to see this movie, let alone most films, are going to end up buying their tickets on the actual day, having worked at a box office, having worked at an actual theater, and seeing people literally walk up to say, what's out this weekend, or what do you recommend? To an insane degree, and people actually waiting in line to get their tickets for the first time, and not picking up their tickets, at the kiosk. And when they were at the kiosk, they were buying them for the first time. And so whenever I hear anything about pre-sales, I say, okay, it's giving us a small indication, maybe, but you can't just look at the total number. You got to look and see where those numbers are, what day of the week is that selling for. I mean, it's more, I think, pertinent to see, okay, how many of those tickets are coming from that Thursday premiere, and does that give us an indication of how well the Thursday night premiere is going to go? And then can we take that Thursday premiere and then extrapolate that out to the rest of the weekend? And obviously, when it comes to the projections of these numbers, there's not an exact science to it. Really, I've gotten as close as I can to being able to create as much of an exact science with the numbers as I possibly can, with the metric that I personally use in my own charting. But again, it doing better than The Batman as far as pre-sales is concerned doesn't really mean a whole lot. I'd say the projections being a little bit higher are definitely a lot more of a story to talk about. It also mentioned that there was a very good, apparently a very good reaction at CinemaCon to Top Gun Maverick. There's some really good early reviews, and that makes me very, very excited because, as you all know, Top Gun 2 is my most anticipated film of the year, and I just cannot wait to see it because I think the cinematography is going to be absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, The Bad Guys is indeed expected to come in at number 1 during this slow weekend, so kudos to DreamWorks for being able to have yet another number 1 showing for its second weekend in a row, making expected to make around $14.4 million, which is going to be a 40% drop from the previous weekend. With nothing else on the marquee, it wouldn't be surprising after matinees today if it goes higher. So they expect that it could potentially end up a higher number after this weekend, this evening, and we'll have again those more exact projections tomorrow. And all other family fare is holding on to their top spots. Paramount Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is eyeing a fourth weekend at $9.7 million in second place, which is a 38% hold. So Sonic the Hedgehog 2 expected to come at number 2. Another, again, still doing very, very well. Running to $159.3 million in total. Warner Brothers' Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore expected to make $3.5 million in the third weekend, which would be a 46% drop, which is not the worst drop in the world domestically, but that would bring the domestic number to 78.8 because it did have a very weak opening weekend. And still, I don't know necessarily with especially the massive release that is expected for Doctor Strange 2 set to come out next weekend. I just don't necessarily think that this film has $100 million domestically in it, and especially when the international market just gobbles up Doctor Strange next weekend as well. I don't really know exactly how much room this film really has to be able to make its money back, but we'll have some. We'll be able to have some breakdowns about that and where that film stands by the end of this weekend too. And then we have A24's Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I was finally able to see this film. I have a review up on the channel if you want to check that out. And I really enjoy this film. It's just so great to see these unique original stories that also are able to take concepts like the multiverse that you would typically only see in a comic film or in a superhero film, but then also be able to play it out with regular everyday people and do so in a very unique way. It's definitely a weird film at times, but I think that it's able to keep itself enough in check to make it really enjoyable, and the acting I think is a big part of that. Michelle Yeoh is phenomenal. Then of course you have the actor that played Data in Short Round. Obviously that's how we know him. We don't again, I'm terrible with names, but that film has had one of these weird release schedules, but you know what? Hey, I don't know what A24 is doing or how they've figured this out, but it seems to be working for them because it's expected to see $5.3 million in its sixth weekend release, which is holding 2% from last week. So that's an insane hold for a film that started off in just about, 30 or 40 screens and then added another maybe 100 after that, and then only after like the first 2 weeks finally had a wide release coming out at a little over 2,000 screens maybe. I mean, it's just insane that has been able to be an effective strategy for them, at least up to this point. So it's expected that film will make around and get to around $35.2 million. Now, it still needs to make a little bit more than that, but it obviously is doing much better than I think would have been estimated. There are some movies that got pushed back, as I mentioned in the very beginning of the video. Antman and the Wasp has been pulled up in time. So Quantum Mania, that's a fun name right there. So Antman and the Wasp, I guess Antman 3, but it's Antman and the Wasp 2. Guess depends on how you're numbering these things. This is actually getting an earlier release. This is expected to get a February, I believe, release, whereas The Marvels, that's right, Captain Marvel 2 is what it was originally supposed to be, but because they realized that Brie Larson doesn't really sell a lot of tickets and she really isn't that popular and has become less popular over time, they realize, oh, let's just put the name Marvels in the title, and maybe that will be a way for us to promote this film. They are apparently further behind in the production process for this movie. They've finished, I believe, principal photography, at least for Brie Larson, or they're still in the process of doing some principal photography or some secondary photography. Either way, they're further behind in this process, so this film is getting bumped back to July, whereas this film is getting bumped up. And of course, I don't think Ant-Man and the Wasp will probably do that much as far as money is concerned. The Ant-Man franchise really hasn't been a huge moneymaker, whereas the Marvels, I think they're going to do everything in their power by delaying this film a little bit more. I would not be surprised if they do everything in their power to try and ensure that this film makes its money back at the very least, because it's not going to be the billion-dollar hit I imagine that the first film was. And let's just be honest, a lot of that was because of its connection to and its closeness to Endgame, and a lot of Marvel fans and a lot of Marvel stans and a lot of Marvel normies expecting, oh, I need to see this film in order to be able to be prepared for Endgame, which came out the next month after. And as it says, that they have swapped release dates, that again, films are moving along very nicely, we hear, but the Ant-Man sequel is further along in the production process, and it was a simple decision by the studio to swap release dates. So Ant-Man 3, previously dated for July 28th, now goes 4 months earlier to February 17th. That's quite a big difference there. And again, kind of makes you wonder exactly how far they are into Captain Marvel 2. It says Captain Marvel sequels, The Marvels, it previously had a February release date, now is going to the July 28th release date. It's interesting that they're not putting that film out during Women's History Month, because that's just the kind of move that you would expect from them at this point. So interesting decisions, to say the very least. It says there The Marvels will arrive the weekend after Warner Brothers' Barbie and Universal's Oppenheimer, which will again provide some competition, but probably not all that much in the first place. As far as the actual numbers are concerned, so the Friday chart is what we have to work with right now. The Bad Guys with $3.7 million. Again, a pretty strong hold from its first Friday. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in its third Friday release, or fourth Friday release at this point. Again, coming up to the number 2 spot, 38% hold with $2.5 million on the Friday. Fantastic Beasts of $2.1 million. The Northman dropping 64%. So again, a little bit of a bigger drop there. $1.8 million for that film. Everything Everywhere All at Once coming into the number 5 with $1.5 million, which again, quite impressive to say the very least for this film that really is an independent film. And I'm happy to see it doing well, because it is really solid. It is really good. And it's probably one of the best films that I've seen so far this year. And the new film from Open Road Memory, $1.1 million. I don't think anyone's expecting a whole lot from this. And if you look at the per theater number here, it really, I think, gets across the idea about why I have some doubts about this film, and I question why this film even exists. So my memory's at 1.1, Bad Guys up to 95.5, so this will cross easily $100 million by the end of this weekend. And then I imagine that because it is still doing well internationally, that it'll probably get close to, if not break even, by the end of the weekend. The Northman at $29.7 million still has a long way to go if it hopes to break even, but again, we'll have to wait and see if the long-term run on that film is able to potentially, get something higher than that. I mean, that's what Everything Everywhere All at Once has been doing. It's been making a lot more money than people, I think, had expected it with its weird release schedule. But this is only up to $33.7 million, which, again, still has a little ways to go. Fantastic Beasts, $286 million. Only money that it's getting is coming internationally, and I would not be surprised if that starts to drop off, especially after next weekend. And Sonic the Hedgehog 2 continues to get close to, and again, once these international numbers update and we get the final domestic numbers for this weekend, will easily surpass that of the original film. So hey, kudos to them for being able to create a successful product. And if you want to see more of the tracking, you can of course check out my website, ombreviews.com. Go to the box office tracking, and you'll see the chart right here, which has the most up-to-date numbers and where these films currently stand. As I mentioned, The Bad Guys is going to get very close to hitting its break-even point. I think it's going to cut this number probably at least in half, if not more, with the updated numbers that we're going to get. Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent I was able to see this past week, and I actually really enjoyed that film also. Not really expected to do all that much, and so we'll see how much it shaves off of that. But as you can see, $100+ million loss still for The Northman makes this film still very far from its break-even point, whereas Everything Everywhere All at Once, $17.2 million in losses. It's, I think, probably going to end up, if it continues to hold as strong as it is, especially in the face of competition, if it's able to hold to those kinds of 2% drops or single digits or maybe even very small double-digit drops, it could crunch this number down or just, tick away at this number just enough for it to be able to be justifiable either as a write-off for A24 or to be in the position where in post-theatrical release with Blu-ray, 4K, etc., might be able to make up some of that money. So anyway, these are the numbers. Where are your thoughts on this? Are you seeing Memory, the only new movie this weekend, or do you plan to see any of the films that came out last weekend or in the last couple weeks that you have not yet gotten to see? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, not that fire button on Odyssey. Y'all are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you have a blessed rest of your Saturday and weekend. We will have, of course, our live stream tonight. I might be streaming also over with Josiah Rises as well, talking about films set to come out this year, or I think mostly specifically the films set to come out in the month of May. Still trying to work out times for that. He's streaming a little late, and You know me, I'm responsible. I like to get to bed as early as I can. Anyway, you guys are all amazing, beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my April Patreon, Subscribe Star, and Locals members. Starting off with Patreon with animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, Hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Hymir Ari Hymeson, Inflamed Wood, Jacob from Holland, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle 79, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Priscilla Hall, Rosella Allen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And also to my Subscribe Star peeps, Matt317, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stand 4, John B., Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alice McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And also a huge shout out to my Locals members, starting off with Kara Tharp, K Tharp 56. Also, UAB, Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Robert Barnes, and also a huge support as well to Brett D90. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Locals. And I want to add a shout out for my newest Patreon member, One-Eyed Jack. Thank you again to everyone for supporting the channel. Please, if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, go ahead and check out the top link at the video description. It is my Willow link, as I like to describe it, and it brings you to a link tree where you get access to all of these different locations, as well as all of the various social media platforms that you can follow me on. If you join at the Citizen of Asgard level, you get your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and video. Army of Asgard level gets you that, plus you get access to a giveaways channel that I have on Discord. If you ever don't have access to that giveaways channel, please contact me. I do send out the link to the Discord and with the instructions on it at the beginning of every single month. But if you don't have access to that giveaways channel where I'm giving away 4Ks and Blu-rays and all that kind of stuff, as much as I possibly can give away is available there. Please just reach out to me and I will gladly walk you through the process to make sure you get access to that giveaways channel. And again, that is, Army of Asgard level, whether you be on Patreon, Subscribe Star, or on Locals. Also, if you are the keeper of the Bifrost level, you get access to all of that. Plus, you get access to a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. We try and do it once or twice a month. I think we're going to try and do it twice this month to make up for some miscommunication that we had last month. So be on the lookout for that, and look out for those podcast Q&A posts that are always available on the Patreon main page, the Subscribe Star main page, on the YouTube side of things as well. The YouTube community tab, you'll always find the podcast Q&A there, and also on the Locals page as well. And if you join at the Chosen of Valhalla level, the highest of the levels, you get access to all of that. Plus, if it's your first month, you get a free t-shirt, any t-shirt you want from my Teespring, my TeePublic, whichever one you want to get it from. You just let me know the size, location I'm sending it to, color, that kind of stuff. You get it sent to you. Plus, you get to be featured once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where we all come together and just talk about movies and really anything the Chosen want to talk about, and it is a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you all very much for your love and for your support. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.